So, how is the new Godzilla, folks? Well, don't tell me, because I can't see it until I take my trip to Gainesville real soon and see it with my uncle. Anyway, not that big a Godzilla fan, not too well versed in its lore, but hey, who doesn't love a good monster bash once in a while? But before I bask in the awesomeness of the Big G's 60th birthday, I thought I'd take a look back at the very first Godzilla film I ever saw, Godzilla vs. Biollante, which my father the sci-fi freak rented one rainy weekend. This still stands out as one of the more unique Godzilla films out there, because after a semi-reboot in 1985, Godzilla didn't take on the usual suspects next. No, we got a new plant critter called Biollante, and man, this sucker was freaky. For one thing, in both forms, she's much bigger than Godzilla, and could deliver quite a beating. Damn! Ow! Not only that, Godzilla had to contend with creative human countermeasures this time. For one thing, there's the Super X2, which can redirect Godzilla's own atomic breath right back at him. And his conventional arsenal packs a wallop as well. Seriously, in this movie, Godzilla has to fight for every single meter of territory he takes. And then there's the gravest threat to him this time, the nuclear energy-eating bacteria that's meant to devour him from within. Yeah, based on bacteria that can clean up oil spills, because contamination from matter and nuclear radiation are the same thing. Yeah, the plot's pretty weird, and there's a lot of disparate things that have to come together. Biollante actually has human roots in a scientist's dead daughter called Erica. Her father creates Biollante by combining one of Erica's cells with some of Godzilla's cells and Rose cells to preserve her spirit or some shit like that. Then there's subplots about an oil-producing Middle East country wanting Godzilla cells to produce plants that thrive in deserts, and other researchers looking into a connection between plants and ESP. It's just all over the place. Watching it again after all these years, it seems a lot more goony, especially some of the chases and gunfights in the beginning. But there's obvious effort to build on the human element, and I'm never thinking, come on, get to Godzilla already! And when he does come, it's some of the best monster stomping action in the series. Even with the more critical eye of an adult, Biollante still stands out. A few years later, I was treated my next Godzilla film. Yeah, this one. Perhaps because I had only seen one other Godzilla film, I didn't care too much about the obvious changes. I figured, okay, we got a giant lizard that stomps through cities and has this atomic breath thing. Again, cool. But when I was 16, I thought it was just a fun ride, and even now, my opinion hasn't changed at all. It's hard to pin down why I still love this one. Maybe it's because in a way, I figured this different take on Godzilla had some stuff going for him. I liked the sleek look, and how this Godzilla was more about swiftness and tunneling through obstacles to outwit enemies than brute force. I felt the effort to develop the human element in this one paid off too. And though people mocked the Madison Square Garden segment as a cheap Jurassic Park ripoff, I found it tense and entertaining. But what do I think is the true tragedy? The follow-up to this, the animated series? As far as I can tell, Mothra, Rodan, Ghidorah, none of those guys show up! Again, I'm no expert on Godzilla lore, but come on! Now that you've introduced Godzilla and you got a TV series to play with, where's the rest of the crowd? Okay, in the following years, I watched more Godzilla films, including the original, but it was the Americanized version with the reporters spliced in. Maybe that version's add-ons made it too clunky and soured what would have been a movie I would have enjoyed much more. I don't know. But eventually, I'd come across a Godzilla film that would not only trounce the 1998 version and become my favorite, but become one of my favorite films, period. And wouldn't you know it, it was Godzilla's last anniversary bash. That's right, Godzilla Final Wars. Again, I'm no Godzilla fanatic, but the whole time I was watching this, I could tell this was one big love letter to longtime fans. Enthusiasm for Godzilla's legacy oozed from every pore, and I was swept up in the hoopla. I just knew this must have been a treat for hardcore fans, and knowing that they were thrilled increased my own enjoyment as well. When I watched this, I felt as one with the kaiju-loving crowd, sharing in their love for the iconic movie monster. From what I can tell, it borrows heavily from an older movie, Destroy All Monsters. Basically, Godzilla's sealed up in a glacier, but other kaijus are raging hell. There's a defense force made up of superpowered mutants or something, but eventually an alien race shows up and seemingly liberates Earth from the kaiju. But of course, it's a ruse, they're here to invade, and eventually, the last vestiges of the EDF have no choice but to release Godzilla and goad him into offing the kaiju that were under Zillion control all along. And boy howdy, Godzilla's at his best here, dispatching kaiju left and right with ridiculous ease. I just wish the fight with the American Godzilla lasted longer. That would have made the affirmation that there's only one true Godzilla much more profound, but that's just me. The development of the human side of this story, a lot more effort went into it than usual. Yeah, it felt a bit Dragon Ball Z-ish at times, and that stuff about a fifth nucleic acid base of alien origin. Damn, and I thought X-Men comics took liberties with biochemistry. But I actually cared about the human characters just as much as Godzilla, and didn't mind at all when we had to watch them fight instead of the big G. It was just one big thrill ride with plenty of artistic flair and solid acting to give it that extra nitro boost. A fine example of filmmaking, period, not just by Japanese standards. And it all ends with Godzilla giving off one last roar before the rising sun, culminating 50 years of dominating cinema. Here's hoping his 60th birthday thrills me just as much. This is the movie to beat.